joining me, Nicolas Owens, Industrials Equity Analyst at Morningstar Research Services. You still think Boeing's a little undervalued here, right? Firstly, like 221, the price, the fair value estimate?
Yep, thanks Oliver, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think a little undervalued is a great way to put it. I wouldn't say it's a screaming buy today, and there could still be, as you alluded to, more headlines and risk. But at the end of the day, we do think that Boeing will figure it out. It might take time, and they'll build the planes safely and get the approval from FAA to increase production. And that's I think what's kind of underlying the story.
Reuters had a headline, I believe it was Reuters yesterday, Boeing is too big to jail. I thought that was a really powerful headline because I feel like from a stock perspective, that's where a lot of investors or analysts or traders kind of default to, where they go, it's Boeing. Eventually it's going to come back. Is that the right way to think about it, or could there be further spiral? Is this just kind of the duopoly that exists where we can't shut them down?
I would lean more toward the duopoly and the competitive dynamic as what's the real strength there is like fundamentals versus some, let's say, political idea of too big to fail, too big to jail.
Okay.
So I think the observation is valid, but the reasoning why is just pure fundamentals. People need planes, and there's only two companies that make them.
And Airbus just also said that they're going to be a little light on their deliveries, right?
Yeah, and that's an interesting angle in the sense that you have both airframers having trouble ramping up production to meet demand in, let's say, post-COVID supply chain mayhem. That's what you have.
Yep.
And asking engine makers and others to say, hey, could you make twice as many of those, please, is not straightforward. Boeing has this additional stuff going on related to its assembly line, but Airbus is an interesting test case in that they're also not having a cakewalk of ramping up production.
So you kind of normalize the scale a little bit and see, okay, there are still supply chain issues, not just Boeing's own issues. I do think that's a valid point as well, an important one. We've also seen that the company is really persistent on the Spirit Aerosystems. Why do they feel that that is the solution? Because right now, Boeing's losing a lot of money. They're burning cash. I mean, this would be a multi-billion-dollar deal. They're talking about giving them stock because they want to preserve the cash flow. I mean, why is this so essential to them? Is it the answer?
Well, Spirit was once part of Boeing.
Yeah.
And you could argue, I would say, the idea of spinning it off was sort of a financial engineering play.
Okay.
There's no real reason that Spirit should be a separate company, in my view. And having it be in-house basically lets them take control over every step of the process. I read a report that they don't even share the same software that manages all these manufacturing steps.
Okay.
So just consolidate that, have a clean line of access to those fuselages.
That's kind of what I've always thought, that it would make sense to have it all under one roof in this case. But then we also know that DOJ has been very antitrust oriented, and the government has not been very amicable towards any types of deals.
Yeah, I don't see that. Like, it's an interesting angle, like the antitrust consolidation. I would so. As it is, Spirit, makes stuff for Airbus and Boeing, et cetera. They're going to split it up. So you could argue that this deal is pro-competitive in the sense that there will be more facility. Again, the business rationale for Spirit, I think, was a bit of a stretch. I don't see any economies of scale of having a factory in Ireland making parts for Airbus and a factory in Kansas making stuff for Boeing. What is the economy of scale there? I don't see it.
Sure. Okay. So if they get that deal done, is that price positive? A lot of times deals, especially if they come out of periods of stress, the market isn't well received. But if we had a crystal ball and we said, okay, this is going to happen, do you think that starts to get the shares turning around? Because I could see someone argue that, well, if you're going to spend to kind of repair the situation, it may be negative.
So two comments. One, my fair value for Spirit is $31. I think the latest report is it's a $35 evaluation at the stock deal. So close to fair value, I would say. So not a huge win, but a good. I'd say Spirit shareholders should take the money and run.
Right.
For Boeing, one comment the CEO made on a call was, when the fuselages come in clean to Boeing, they whistle through the factory. right? So the issue is get the assembly line squared away on the fuselages, which I think they can do more easily when everyone's on the same team, they're on the same payroll. The problem Boeing and Spirit have had is they have this weird commercial deal where Spirit gets paid by the piece, so to speak, and their prices are scheduled to go down over time, and so they had almost no incentive to figure it out. Whereas now that all that sort of goes away when they're together. If that
it
makes
almost
sense.
sounds like one would argue that perhaps that breakup maybe contributed to some of the issues.
Absolutely.
And oversight and management.
Absolutely. I think that it was early 2018. Boeing was trying to ramp up at the time from, I want to say, 30-something to 40-something 737s a month. And they obviously said to Spirit, can you do that? And they said, we'll try. And Spirit couldn't. But Boeing said, send us the ones you have as soon as you have them, and you can keep working on them. And that, I would argue, violated one of the golden rules of manufacturing, which is not to kind of break your process.
Yeah.
And then the planes started crashing, and COVID happened. And so essentially, I think they're unwinding that whole mess now, years later.
Okay. I think it's a great discussion for what seems to be, for them, the most imminent kind of step towards a solution is the Spirit Aerosystems deal. So we're getting a lot of headlines. When do you think we would know? What is the timeline?
I think we'll know soon here, a couple weeks. But Airbus just mentioned they think the deal will close by the end of the year.
Okay. Nick, great stuff. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.